So when you first sign up to Xero and you log on for the very first time, this is fairly similar to what you'll see. Because we are a practice, this may look slightly different, but just so you can get the idea of what works, what doesn't work, and how it all works. So this will be the first one. There is a really good guide here, which you can also watch and use. And there's a couple of questions there as well. So to get going, if you just click on next, you're then going to pop in all your company details. So if you are a sole trader, you would choose sole trader. If you're a limited company, you would choose limited company. If you are a limited company, you'd then put your registration number in here, and you'd make sure that your legal name, which is on your Companies House, is also shown here. You can then use your display name to be however you would like it to be in Xero. Usually this would be the same as your legal traded name. You can then pop in your registered address and your physical address. If they're different, most people just put in their registered address, and you can then add in your social links as well. You can then say if you're registered for VAT or not. So I'm going to choose yes, just to show you all the eventualities. But obviously, if you're not, then you'd tick no. You put in the type of VAT scheme. Most people will be on either the accrual or the cash rate for the scheme. I wouldn't recommend either of these unless you are certain that flat rate is best for you. We've got a load of blogs on that, so feel free to go and have a look at that on our website. But flat rate is not usually very worthwhile doing for many businesses. So you'd normally be accrual or cash. If you're not sure, double check with your accountant to be sure. Then put in VAT period. Most people will be on quarterly, and then you'd put your VAT number from HMRC in. You also need to put in your year end. It will default to 31st of March, but you can change it by clicking here and then updating here. And you can put in whatever your year end is. So I'm just going to pretend it's December because that is my company year end. And then no, it's best to set up at year end, so I would just do this one. This will be different for different people as well, so just make sure if you are a sole trader, you would just want to put in 31st of March and leave it as it is, and then click save and confirm. You can then return back to the setup guide and continue. Right, so it's not saved these bits because we didn't save it from earlier, so I'm just going to pop that in. Tax defaults, I just leave it to tax exclusive. If you're CIS, then you can add that after you've completed the wizard. The backs we won't recommend using unless you are a back supplier, but I'm guessing that 99.9% of you won't be, so that can be left as it is. And then just check you're happy with the time zone. Do you send invoices? If not, you can skip. So if you're like an e-commerce business, for example, or a shop, or mine's gone blank, but you get where I'm going. If you don't send invoices, you can stick no, and if you do, you can do yes, and it will make sure that the templates are there. It will just leave this basic one in here for now, and we will go through this in more detail later on in the course. Okay, to next. This is where you can add more people. So if you've got more people in your team that you want to have access, you can add them in here. And again, I will go through all the different types of access as well in a separate video. You can also use this to add your accountant as well if you need to. So I'm not going, actually I will show you how to do it. So you just pop in their first name, last name, their email address, and then what permission you want them to have. And as I said, I will go through all the different types later because there's a fair few different types in business and accounting. But generally, if it's your accountant, you'll need to give them business and accounting and advisor and payroll admin and projects if you are using projects, which is an add-on. If it's just a member of your team, you probably won't want them to have payroll admin unless you're going to be running your payroll, and you may want them to have a lower level of access. And again, you can tick here if you want them to be able to edit the bank details. And this is where you save the bank details in their contact record. If they're going to be filing VAT returns, then you definitely need to check this one. And if you want them to be able to invite new users, then tick in here as well. If it's just for your team, unless it's one of your senior team, I wouldn't do this. If it's for your accountant, I probably would do this, because then they can add new members of their team as they start or take them away as they leave, to save bothering you, because I'm sure that's the last thing you want to be doing. And you can add a message if you want. So I'm just going to go to next. If you have got foreign currencies, you can add this in, but you do need to have the premium Xero to do this. And majority of our clients don't generally do multi-currency. It's probably not something I'd recommend you do within Xero if you're not using a fully trained bookkeeper, because it is quite complex. So I'm going to go through this and say no. The chart of accounts, you can use the default one. And in a later video, we'll explain exactly what the chart of accounts are and why it's important. You can change the chart of accounts, but again, I'll cover that in a later video. So for now, we will just click next. And yes, because we're going to add the bank accounts later as well. You then set your conversion date. So this is the date that you want to start your Xero records from. So I would always set this to the last day of when you want to start it from. So for example, we've put in the year end is this January to December. So I want to start it from January 2024. So we're going to then put in the balances as of the end of last year on the next step. So if you are a 31st of March year end as a sole trader, then you'd put in, you want to start from April 2024 or forward, depending on when you're watching this course. We then put in your opening balances. And again, I'm going to cover this in a separate video because it is quite complex and I want to dedicate a whole video to it. So for now, I'm just going to finish it through and I'll explain all of this in a later video. And then once you're happy, you can click on finish and you are all done. And you're now able to get into Xero and get everything set up and going as you want it to.